And Sevon's just going to be like, just quit stealing JR from me, man. Andrew Hiller, JR Howell. JR, who are you? Who are you, JR?
Tell us about yourself. Who are you?
Who am I, or what do I do?
I don't want you to tell us what you do. I want you to tell us who you are.
What do you do? I mean, maybe they're the same thing. Do you affiliate your who you are with what you do?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I got 2 little girls. One's 4 years old. One's a year old. My wife Rebecca is a PharmD, so she's a doctorate of pharmacy. She works at a local cancer center. That's in conjunction with a hospital here in Spartanburg. She's an RN also. I'm an RN also, but I don't practice currently. I just run the gym full time.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's probably why I had you on. All that other stuff is also good. Maybe some people didn't know a lot of that, but that's also cool.
Maybe you could give me an example of what a good answer would be.
Why did I ask you to be on this show? We're going to be talking about the Batman workout, right? That workout that I wrote up. People who have kind of followed along, you are the guy who kind of guessed a lot of the things that may have been into the CrossFit games via Adrian's programming. And I think that you got a brilliant mind. I guess I kind of answered your question for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably just you being a little bit too nice. But yeah, I got lucky a few times, did a lot of research, went back to the very beginning, read a lot of old journal articles, tried to find everything I could about Adrian, listened to all the podcasts that he had done with Pat, Varied Not Random, those that he had done before taking over his new position as director of the CrossFit Games, and then ones after, hoping maybe I could find some insight into kind of what he values with fitness, where he wants the sport to go, all that kind of stuff.
You're a CrossFit Games athlete?
I'm a Masters Games athlete.
You're a CrossFit Games athlete. Just, yeah.
Yes,
I mean, yeah.
Sure, semantics. Yeah.
There you go, semantics. All right, so I did bring you on because I want you to be openly critical about this, which brings you to this guy. I know you've seen this. You and I have talked a little bit about this. What was your first impression when you see this workout?
Well, the first thing I thought of, I think it's pretty easy, is you think about the classic, can you do this or not, workouts of CrossFit, like King Kong, Godzilla, stuff like that. But what I really noticed about it, one, is that I thought it was really cool that you went 5-4-3-2 with the plates, at least for the male loading. And then I thought it was really cool that you had that number 30 and 300, because back in the day, 30 ring muscle ups was a huge benchmark for people to do. And you've kind of found a way to work that gymnastics test into this workout with the heavy loading, which I think is a lot more appropriate than doing 2 muscle ups at a time or 4 handstand push-ups at a time, you know, looking back at King Kong, that kind of stuff.
Correct. Because, well, the big thing that I threw in there were the 10 unbroken ring muscle ups, because for some people, the stronger people, they'll look at that and that might be the thing that holds them back. The weightlifting might hold them back. But also, if you were trying to do this as fast as possible, maybe you go 6-4, maybe you go 4-3-3 on the ring muscle ups, maybe you 100 unbroken double unders for a lot of people at this point is kind of, they just toss it aside, but this forces you to kind of maybe reach a little bit.
I think the unbroken requirement is really cool. I mean, I think you showed from your release of this workout when you were doing it that this is an idea that you kind of brought to the table before this previous season, where we saw some unbroken requirements have to be done at the games. And that's something that Adrian kind of forced people to do. It's something I think we'll see in the future, in the open, in quarterfinals, stuff like that, where you may see 5 rounds for time, 50 double unders, 50-foot handstand walk. But the unbroken double unders have to be there. And the handstand walk is a 25-25 with a pirouette unbroken. So you don't do 50-foot straight, you do 25, you turn, you come back 25. And that's
this will be one of those sub clips that we grab in the future and be like, JR called it 10 years ago.
Maybe. I mean, I just think that as the sport progresses, there tends to be a tendency to just make everything more and more and more. Well, let's just do 5 rounds of 100 double unders, 100-foot handstand walk. I think the way we're seeing the sport go with more value on execution and intensity, why not just keep it 50-50?
50-50. How can we possibly determine that? We need 50 coins, and then my computer will analyze it with science.
Seriously?
But say that the double unders have to be done unbroken, and the handstand walk has to be unbroken with a turnaround. I mean, it just makes more sense to me.
So all of that brings me to this guy, and I know you know who this guy is. A lot of people know who this guy is now, Nick Mathew. We've been talking about how many people do you or I think would be able to complete this workout at the level of the CrossFit Games? What would potentially be holding them up? What was your number, your split percentage-wise? How many do you think could do it?
I would say 75% can, and maybe around 20 to 25% could not.
Why do you say they would not be able to?
It's got to be one of the loaded movements. I at this level, you don't. It's not going to be the snatch, and I would have a hard time believing that it was the back squat. I would think for a lot of them, it's going to be the bench press.
Yeah, I would say so too. Well, I mean, we did just see Danielle Brandon this past weekend with the 275 back squat, and nobody would have seen that. She did come out and say that it was due to a back injury, but there's a couple of people out there who might not be able to handle the back squat weight, but it'd be rare and more likely, yeah, probably the deadlift and likely the bench press.
What's the deadlift? Is it 335 for the females?
For the women, yes.
Is that the same as the back 9 loading was this year? I couldn't remember if the deadlift was 475 for the men and you made it 495, and the bench press load was 205 for the females, or 220. Yes. Okay, yeah, and I think that's the only time we should use 315 205 again.
Yes, I agree. So when it comes to Nick, he's also one of the only people who has all of his benchmark, or not all of them, but looks like it's up to date. The 300-pound snatch is impressive. Clean and jerk is impressive. The deadlift is impressive. I reached out to him and I go, Nick, you'd be interested in doing the Batman workout? I'll send you $100. And he goes, yeah, sure. I just finished up Rogue, but fuck it, I'll do it this weekend. So him and his buddy did it, and that's why I asked JR around, because I wanted to, rather than just talk over Nick's video like I've done in the past, I think it'd be cool to have JR's insight a little bit, and we'll have a little bit of a back and forth on it.
Is that a heavy grace time?
Where do you see it? 203? Maybe. No, he just did that in what? It was probably 345 this past weekend.
Yeah, no.
He hasn't he updated his lifts, but not his grace.
I think that's probably supposed to be in the Fran slot.
Come on, Nick. Update your profile. All right, so Nick sent me this video in, what is this, portrait mode, where the screen's straight up and down. I had to cut it. It's a little bit fuzzy, but we can still see exactly what he's doing here. He starts off with a 495-pound deadlift. First thoughts, JR, you got anything?
My first thought is this first round for him may be the slowest round.
Oh, yeah. Why do you say that?
Well, watching you do it, that kind of seemed like what happened. You kind of got into a groove and you went. Someone like him with his fitness level, I don't see him taking longer on the transitions late, like going from the muscle up to the double under or going from the snatch to the muscle up. I just think this first round, he'll just kind of use to groove.
What I thought was interesting was this other guy doing it, and I kept noticing it. I didn't notice it until maybe the third round because I was paying such close attention to Nick, but I think his name is Justin. I think I looked at his profile. It said he's some sort of a doc, and shoes come on, shoes go off, and then he takes them on and off a handful of times, and it's just very David Hippensteel-y. But if we're going to talk more about Nick, movement looks great. He's a CrossFit Games athlete, and in this video, I don't know if it's because I pulled it in a little bit, he just looks thick. And I think that's something that I brought up with Saxon recently, that Saxon's missing the thickness of somebody like Nick, where if they just kind of met in the middle somewhere, they'd be the ultimate CrossFitter.
Yeah, Nick, something I noticed about his muscle ups is being super deliberate with his dip, shoulders being well over the rings. And I don't know if that's because he knows that you're watching.
Is there a reason for that?
Or because because that's just how he practices doing them. But I think to your point about the density of his musculature, I mean, he said he's been powerlifting and bodybuilding since he was a teenager?
Correct. Yeah.
So that's just crazy how 10 plus years of that really can put on loading. I mean, someone like Herschel Walker, in his, political goals at this point, people will go back and now talk about how much of a legend he was for doing 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 sit-ups a day and not lifting any weights. I mean, there's something to be said for just years and years and years of rep accumulation and what that can do to your body.
Well, did Walter Payton also run up a hill a couple of times a day? And yeah. same sort of deal. It was just like what he did, just all of that volume added to the muscle mass.
Right.
I didn't know that.
So is he at 240 right now? Is that what that says?
The clock says it's 2:31. I believe.
2:30.
Yeah, it's fuzzy. So Nick, the iPhone, next time you do it, I think he had it facing the other way. So he was using the front facing camera. You got to use the high quality camera and go landscape mode next time you send me a video. But I'm not upset. It's impressive to watch you and I'm appreciative of it. That walk up to the deadlift in 495 after the double unders, and then the direct walk into of the back squat and he just knocks it out. Got anything on that, JR?
I mean, he even takes a really big breath after the deadlift, but it's like one big breath. Okay, all I got to do is one, and then goes. I mean, it's
to some people outside of CrossFit. I mean, 495 is heavy no matter what way you try to spin it. And actually, it's probably a good time to talk about this because there's only 3 opportunities to talk about it. But he walks up to the deadlift and he smacks it, goes right into the back squat and he smacks it. Look at the extent of time he takes before he starts up the bench press.
I mean, this is like a 20-second break. He's already chalked. He sits
and he's
down.
got the spotter there too, right? So, I mean, maybe there's the potential he missed. And I'm not mistaken. I think him and I had a conversation that he had a 375 bench press all-time max. So 315 is 82, 83% of that. It shouldn't be. And that looks tough. Why is that tough? What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe just because of the deadlift and the back squat, there's so much tension everywhere in the body. And after the double unders, I don't know, man. I mean, you can recruit so much more musculature on those compound lifts than you can on something like a bench press. So maybe that's the reason.
And then he walks right up to the snatch and he smacks it too. And I mean, it's just exposure. We don't bench very much in CrossFit, in my opinion. So I think that all the experience, he knows what he can do on the 3 other lifts, but the bench press, he's a little bit timid with it. And then it actually was more challenging. The muscle ups, in my opinion, also have a accumulation of fatigue that maybe affect the bench press a little bit more than anybody else would expect as well. And the double unders, I mean, they're affecting your shoulders a little bit, and it's not all that long before you're back on the bench press bar.
When you did this workout, how unstable did the lockout on the snatch feel after the bench press?
Incredibly unstable. I mean, so the other day I did the 100, right? And the 3 snatches on this workout were harder than any of the 100 I did on the 225 for 100 reps that I did a couple of days after.
Wow.
And you got a reason for that? I think you do.
Well, I mean, when you bench press, you are really packing that shoulder girdle. And to be able to open it up into external rotation right after that is with that fast turnover is just super difficult.
I think that the bench press brings you so far into internal rotation.
Right.
I mean, on top of the packing of the shoulder girdle that you already said, but in order to get into the good overhead, it's almost like you got to re-elongate the muscles that you kind of shortened to bench press.
Right.
And I put them back to back right there. It was cool because it makes sense on the plates and the loading and the cleanliness of how it looks, but it's also impactful because of everything we just said.
Yeah. And this is maybe a little bit of a stretch, but if you think about how many times in the open when Dave was programming that he programmed a burpee snatch, it was burpee
Yes.
snatch, snatch, just tons of variations. And
chest
you
and
think
overhead,
about
chest and overhead.
Right. And I mean, you think about why, and people are like, oh, it's because of the range of motion. It's the biggest range of motion of a barbell. It's the biggest range of motion for a gymnastics movement. But I think too, he knew that just pressing into the floor and then locking out overhead was so challenging for people from a muscular standpoint that it ended up being, I mean, that guy's bench press looked easier than Nick's last one.
This guy looks like he's bigger than Nick in general. He's a big fucking dude. So that round took him 2.5 as well. Is that right? Is that
524 that it says?
It looks like it says 5. Yeah. So he did that round quicker.
Yep.
Yep. You were right about that. So the question is that snatch up. See, it just looks like it's hard to hold the bar overhead. It's not even an instability thing. It's the position doesn't quite look like it's something he wants to be in.
Right.
Nick's back squat's so easy. I'm very envious of his squat positions. Him and like Ben Smith just have very fluid looking squats. I'm jealous of that. You probably are too. Don't you got longer legs?
Yeah, dude. I have really, really long femurs. My ankles are like concrete.
I think the clock said 6 something when we were talking about it being 5 something because it's 7 now, 7:15 on the clock. And I think here's another one of those long fucking breaks.
And I mean, this looks like this is the workout for him. It's like this is the only rep that's going to challenge me. I mean, the muscle ups haven't looked difficult at all. I'm sure the last set they won't look hard either. I would love to see Ben do this workout. I think he would
Ben Smith?
thrash it. Yeah.
I wonder what his bench is, man. Didn't he just put up 315 for the first time ever recently?
I didn't see that. If he did,
I think that was maybe 4 to 6 months ago. He's like all-time best bench at 315. Look at that fucking thing. And imagine if he missed it. If he missed it, it'd be when I did this workout, I missed at 87, I believe, on my last set of double unders. Walks up with the snatch, smacks it. One of my first Nick Mathew and sightings was at Wadapalooza in 2017. There was the ramp, the handstand walking ramp, and then the snatches. Do you remember that workout on that off stage?
Yeah, because I think that was the workout that I'm pretty sure Danny went touch and go through 165 maybe.
That was my first Danny Spiegel sighting as well. I was like, holy shit, that was impressive. But yeah, the two of them just, they can throw the bar overhead without a second thought. It's impressive. And yeah, he's being very deliberate with this lockout. Good on you, Nick. I wonder if that's impacting his bench press too.
There's almost a little pause at the top, so I'm sure it is.
Oh yeah, he's like, okay, Andrew's going to put this on his YouTube channel. Let's make it. I wonder if he told his buddy that too, because I've spotted a handful of reps from his buddy. And I'm like, that was a little suspect, man, but I appreciate he's doing it. It's cool he's able to do it. Like, I didn't think that many people in the world would be able to do this. And there's 2 people in this gym at this affiliate that are doing it.
Yeah.
Can
there's a lot of, no, I wouldn't be able to do it.
What holds you back?
The bench press for sure.
Bench? Yeah. The lifts are okay though. And
the power snatch. Like when I competed in 2021 at the games, I had a torn infraspinatus and teres minor. So, I mean, I don't snatch often at all.
Got it. So he just passed 10. No, he's not 10. It says 9:15 on the clock right there.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So he's going to be close to 10.
Close to 10. This son of a bitch. Double unders at the level of the CrossFit games. 100 unbroken. What's the likelihood somebody misses? In just like an average everyday scenario, maybe 1 in 30, 1 in 20 chance.
Depends on the workout. Like that open workout that had 100 after every movement. When they're really focusing, I would say maybe they mess up on one set.
Yeah. Okay. So you got a Jason Hopper who you've worked pretty close with. He misses 1 out of 30 times. Not often.
Not often. No.
Not often. Okay.
And what you'll see too, like if you watch Nick do these double unders, and you can
10:01, 10:02 he finished at.
And you compare it to like someone like, let's say, who's maybe the fastest in the game, Travis Mayer. Super efficient, barely jumps. The speed, he can get close to 120 in a minute.
Yeah, you're right. That would make a big difference.
Where it might be, it might be like 104, 105 for the people that aren't jumping as fast. But I actually think Travis has I think he's jumping rope because Molly Metz, that really famous girl that jumps rope that can do. Yeah, you should look her up. Molly Metz, I think is her name. But I'm pretty sure Travis has a jump rope sponsor that's not RPM.
Quickest possible time on that workout, in your opinion?
Close to 9, because if you're not taking those extended breaks before the bench press, I mean, that probably was close to 45 seconds of rest that he took.
I don't know, before I started doing anything on the internet, I wrote up a handful of things on a whiteboard, and it was like 600-pound deadlift, 500-pound back squat. And I remember, like, what is the elite, the most fit person in the world capable of? And I think at some point in time, aerobic nature of CrossFit started to be prioritized, and the strength and anaerobic power part of CrossFit started to be de-incentivized. So when I wrote this workout, this is very much in the nature of King Kong and Godzilla, which we talked about earlier.
But those are what, like 2 minute? Like what? Like I could do King Kong right now in like Fran time.
You think you could?
Yeah, it's 3 rounds of 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sub 3 minute workout. But this one is like, like you said, what's the threshold? What's the terminal time, like the terminal velocity? What's the fastest anyone can go on this? I mean, I wouldn't say it's like much faster than 9 minutes.
Well, yeah. So it isn't much faster than 9, but when I wrote it, I wanted it to be something where you watch somebody like Nick intentionally taking a break before the bench press. And I remember before, or maybe in the middle of the season this year, you heard Ben Smith talking about how and even Sevan was bringing it up, it was transitions and speed of movements, and that was the name of the game. You see Nick waiting before he does the bench, and that's something that I think CrossFit has missed a lot recently. Do you see any of that or no? Do you know what I'm getting at with that? It's like it's so light, they're so capable, and maybe there's been a skewing one direction that we miss stuff like this.
To Ben's point, I remember him saying when he came on one of the shows it was one of the semifinals in Knoxville, but he said something like, back in the day, the long test was like the hundreds, where it was 100 wall balls, 100 chest to bar, 100 pistols, 100 dumbbell snatch. That was the endurance test. And that's a completely different feel than like the triple threes, completely different.
You know what? That's incredibly correct. And now it's all endurance testing, just straight up go run 10 miles and everyone knows where they're going to finish. Is that what you're saying?
In general, the volume has been so high that because a lot of the cyclical movements don't take as much out of you and make you as sore, there's a tendency in the programming world to make the long test the ones that aren't classic CrossFit, if that makes sense.
So that was an 18 to 22 minute workout, right? That hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to say maybe Khalipa had the fastest time on that, but I want to say, the fastest guys were still in the high teens. But when you're looking at those 400 reps over the course of that weekend, unless you have some 21:15:9 type stuff in there where there's only 90 reps and there's a couplet, then if you put in a hundreds type workout and all of your other workouts are pretty high volume, you're just going to crush people. So I wonder if maybe as the volume continued to increase, there was a thought process of, okay, well, if we're going to make these guys go heavy and fast, if we're going to make these guys go light and long, then we've got to have something, like we got to work these machines in as a way to test aerobic capacity, but also as a way to preserve the athlete. If you think back to one of the years at regionals, there was a workout, I think that was, I want to say it was 5 rounds for time, but it was cow row, chest to bar, and then deficit strict handstand push up.
That was cool too.
So it's not just the whoever can hammer the machine type workout is going to win. There was a little bit of back and forth. There was a little bit of everything matters here.
Is that what you think? You think?
And I think
Is that what you think? You think?
Now when you look at workouts, unless people really know what they're doing from a programming standpoint, it's like the biggest guy is just going to do the best because he's going to be able to crush the machine. And you don't see it as much in cyclical style rounds for time style workouts. You don't see the machine there as much. Think about that chipper, the year that had a 1K assault bike into the handstand
and then it finished
walk.
with the overhead squats at 225.
Right.
There's the box jump overs, that weird long box. What about it?
Yeah. So, I mean, look at a workout like that. We know what the bike was there for, but it was
a buy-in.
It didn't
matter.
It doesn't matter.
It didn't affect the workout.
Yeah, you had to hang out at like 400 watts and you got off with everyone else.
Yeah, sure. And I know Chase is super vocal about it when they talk on their podcast about how, enough with the machine buy-ins, like even the Jackie style workouts, like enough of the, hey, let's just look at each other and say, okay, guys, you're all going to hold about 142. Yep. That's the plan. Okay, cool. See you on the chest to bar, like at the games workout 2 years ago, where it's like,
that's annoying. That's no good either.
Unless it's cyclical, right? So unless you're coming back to the machine and then you're coming back to the machine and coming back to the machine, you can say, hey, look, man, that dude did his 30 cows in a minute 15 on round 1. Then he did minute 18, then he did minute 19, then he did minute 20. And over the course of that, the rest of the field fell off and it was taking him a minute and a half every time on the cow row. And that's where he made his move in the workout. You don't see as many workouts like that anymore. The machine matters, but not from a anaerobic power output, but from a like aerobic power output.
So I think we started this whole thing off with me saying that maybe we're not quite pushing the strength end of the envelope anymore. You don't see workouts like King Kong and Godzilla anymore, but you're trying to say that the use of the machines and the nature of the workouts at their core have just maybe been not quite as emphasized or lost a bit. And you know what, with everything you were just saying, do you remember 14.4, that open workout?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite workouts of all time because you do the rower to buy in. If you hang out at 13 to 1400, you're setting yourself up well for the rest of the workout. 1500, great. You do have to make your way through the wall ball, the toe to bar, the cleans, and then the 20 ring muscle ups. But it's that second row, which is where you kind of make your money. 13 to 1400 again, which is basically how did you pace the whole freaking thing? You don't see that sort of stuff anymore, right?
And there are so many open workouts that are now what you would call maybe a little bit dated. Like they don't hold up anymore as really good tests. But I think
the old ones?
you could still program 14.4, like 23.4 could be 14.4, and 9 years later, it would still be a great test. And there's still plenty of places for there to be separation in that.
That would be such a cool workout to repeat, because Froning's best score on that was a handful of toes to bar afterwards. Maybe it was like 12 or 14 toes to bar after that row.
Yeah, 9 years ago, and most people
think,
still couldn't beat that.
You don't think so?
No. Yeah, I'm talking about like the 95th percentile people in the open. So people that just go to affiliates still wouldn't be able to beat that score from 9 years ago.
Oh,
but I think
the games athletes.
I think the games athletes, yeah. I mean, because what you would see now in a workout like that is not only faster rowing paces, but if you think back to even watching Rich, a lot of people did 5s on the toes to bar. He probably didn't, but a lot of people I remember just did quick sets of 5. And then a lot of people said the way to go is just to do singles on the cleans. I think you would still see some people like rip off a set of 15 touch and go and then go to singles. You would see people maybe do 10 muscle ups and then 6-4. Whereas back then you saw people do 3s and 4s the whole time. That would be a really cool test to see.
God, that would be awesome. Just because of that second row. Like everyone would be like thrashing themselves, but also the open doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So who knows how hard they'd be thrashing themselves.
With this worldwide ranking, it seems like they're going to try to find a way to make the open matter again.
You're saying they've been listening. Maybe. Who knows?
It sounds like it. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with that. I don't know that I like the idea of using previous year's performance to give you a ranking for this year. You know, take someone like you or Taylor, for instance, where you have an injury that you're trying to work through and you didn't compete at all the following year and you're automatically ranked below a bunch of people that you're way fitter than because you weren't able to do anything the previous year. That's not, you didn't
think about that one, did you, CrossFit?
So I don't know how. I mean, if you're not at least factoring in this current year's performance, like I think the easiest thing to do for a worldwide ranking is just for it to be your quarterfinals ranking in the world. That is your rank right there.
Pretty easy.
Everyone does the same workouts. Everyone does them in their own gyms. It's as level as it can get.
Some would say maybe just make the open matter again, but I like this one too because they're not going to do that. They don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, as an affiliate owner, it being 3 weeks is really nice. I mean, I'll probably have anywhere from 50 to 100 people that sign up. Well, now I've got to validate all the scores again, so it's a little bit different. I've already got text chains with all of my competitive athletes. So either people that are trying to make it individually to semifinals, or we have 3 teams right now that are trying to make it. Ooh. They're all on a group text. Hey, these are the dates. Request off from work. They're doing the team quarters during the week. So all of you have to be off of work. You're not doing it during class time. You got to do it between 9 and 12 or between 1 and 4. And that's the only time slots that you can do them. So, I mean, I'm already starting that communication this many months out because as an affiliate owner, you have the open, which now they at least all have to do in the affiliate. You know, they can't do it at their home gym. Like they have to do it there at the gym. They can't just have a registered judge. It has to be done at Crash. I've got to sign off on it. Everything you're saying here,
you're giving a high five to CrossFit this time.
For sure. Releasing the dates ahead of time was a huge thank you. Because when those dates came out, that's when I sent out that text and said, if you guys aren't prepared for these dates, then you're just being negligent.
J.R. Howell has spoken. All right. A little longer than I wanted to, but I like it. It's all good. I think a lot of people are going to appreciate all of that towards the back end. I hope that they like I hope they like Nick Mathews' performance on the Batman. Thank you, J.R. Crash at CrossFit Crash on Instagram. It's right there in the little tag. Got anything else, J.R.?
No, that's it, man.
All right.
Thanks. This was fun.
And Sevon's just going to be like, just quit stealing JR from me, man. Do you have a sign out? This is JR Howell from CrossFit Clash. See ya. Because mine's End Reeler out.